everyone. Welcome to Urban U. I'm Tinabeth Piña.
And I'm Ari Goldberg. This month, we're here at Hunter College. We've got a renowned author with a new book out from here we want to tell you about. We'll also head to City Tech's super cool 3D lab and learn about forensic entomology at John Jay and plenty more.
But first, we'd like to honor Dr. Bernice Sandler, the godmother of Title IX, who recently passed away. I feel so lucky that I had the opportunity to interview her years ago, because if it wasn't for her, millions of young girls, including myself, would have never had the opportunity to compete in high school or collegiate athletics.
This month being Mother's Day, I felt it was the appropriate time to honor her legacy. So for this month's For the Record, it's on Bernice Sandler. Dr. Sandler, this is for you. Thank you.
No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. And that says it all.
That is the Title IX law in full, one sentence. As read by Bernice Sandler, the godmother of Title IX herself, when Tinabeth and I had the pleasure of meeting her in 2013. That one sentence was signed into law in 1972, and has had immense effects on the entire education system, from athletics to sexual harassment. Sandler got her bachelor's degree from Brooklyn College, and then her master's from City College. But while working to attain a doctoral degree in education, Sandler found herself repeatedly turned down for teaching positions, once being told she came on too strong for a woman. Now, not being one to take that sort of thing lying down, through her work with the Women's Equity Action League, Sandler was able to support Representatives Edith Green, Patsy Mink, and Senator Birch Bayh to help pass Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972. At the time, it actually passed very quietly with little national attention, but its impact grew beyond anything Sandler thought it might. From increased women's participation in athletics, to increased exposure of sexual harassment on college campuses, to protections for transgender students, it has been Title IX that has provided the legal framework for enforcing all of them.
I remember saying, oh, isn't this nice? It's covering athletics. It means on field day, the girls will have more activities. We really did not know it was going to shift the entire field of higher education and lower education. It's the most important law passed for women and girls since women got the right to vote in 1920. We just had no idea.
But none of it would have been possible if not for the efforts of Title IX's godmother, CUNY's own Bernice Sandler.
Here's a short break with the creation by LaGuardia Community College student Lexi Glover. CUNY is home to some of the top historians in the nation, including Hunter's own Professor Benjamin Hett, whose newest book, The Death of Democracy, had CNN calling it the Book of the Week. Mike Gilliam reports.
So my book is about the downfall of democracy in Germany, really between the late 1920s and the early to mid 1930s. And it's an attempt to really sort of tell the story of how a really highly civilized, advanced, in many ways very progressive democracy steadily really went down the drain and collapsed into what we know of as one of the most barbaric and evil regimes in all of human history. Right at the end of World War I, Germany had a revolution in which basically the left-of-center Social Democrats took power, and they drafted a new constitution.
Under the Weimar Republic, Germany became one of the most progressive countries in the world. They had the world's most influential gay rights movement and a very successful workers' movement.
In terms of culture and the arts, Germany was really setting the pace in the 1920s. It had some of the world's leading writers, leading painters, leading musicians. We think of Kurt Weill or Bertolt Brecht, for instance. Scientifically remarkable place. We need only think of Albert Einstein, who was the most prominent physicist of the time. It was really leading the world in almost all things that human beings can do creatively.
But according to Hett, by 1927-28, we start to see the signs of what is going to lead to the downfall of the democratic system. Conservatives like the military high command and many businesses were not happy with the new democratic system. They wanted to reverse it and move Germany to a more authoritarian system that would better serve their interests.
This coincided with the beginnings of economic crisis and in a general way with a world economic system and a financial system that really wasn't working very well for the interests of a large number of Germans, and that sparked a protest movement.
One of the protest groups was the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or the Nazis.
They were fundamentally a protest movement against the effects of economic globalization. They start to do well in elections in rural areas where the Nazis are making an argument that they will basically protect struggling farmers from imports.
The Nazis mastered the use of dishonesty and irrational appeals in their political message.
Hitler notoriously wrote in his infamous book Mein Kampf about the importance of telling the big lie in politics. Most people, Hitler said, don't tell big lies in their daily lives. So if you tell a really big lie and then just repeat it endlessly, people will accept it as truth because they won't be able to imagine that that could actually be a lie.
Then it was their appeal to political tribalism.
There definitely was a huge refugee and migrant political issue in the Weimar Republic.
Many Russians and Jews were fleeing into Germany because of unstable conditions elsewhere, causing a big concern for border security. Conservatives supported the Nazis, thinking they could co-opt them and return to power. But by 1933, Hitler was Chancellor of Germany and the Nazis were in power.
What worries me about our time, our current administration, our current politics, is that we seem to be retracing some of the steps that Germans took in that same era in the late 20s and early 1930s. I started thinking about how I might, in a way, tell the story of the end of democracy in Weimar in a way that would, I hope, have a lot of resonance for people right now in our moment.
Professor Benjamin Carter Hett says it's important to remember.
In a free election, the best the Nazis ever did was about 1/3 of the vote in Germany. I would hope that when people read my book, they think about some of the parallels that might be disturbing, and then I hope they go out and vote, they call their members of Congress, they call their senators, they take action. That's the only way anything's going to change is if all of us take some action.
I'm Mike Gilliam for Urban U.
Crime dramas in New York, like Law & Order, have been city institutions for decades now. But ripped from the headlines doesn't always show the whole story of New York crime scene investigation. Because behind the police procedurals are the forensics you don't see, like the ones who study insects at crime scenes.
One of the reasons why I got into this field is being able to kind of be the bug whisperer. There's not a lot of people that understand and can interpret what the insects tell you in an investigation. Because they do tell a story, and a lot of times they're overlooked. You know, people lie. The bugs don't really lie.
This bug whisperer is Jennifer Rosati, assistant professor at John Jay College and forensic entomologist. Entomology is the study of insects. Forensic entomology is studying insects for criminal investigation, and it's not a job for everybody.
Do I take the work home? Absolutely. There has been many times where I've taken the work home with me. I have traveled on the subway with maggots in my pockets. Yes, I have. And for the most part, working in the city is great because people mind their own business. They really do. I mean, they might go, oh, something smells over here, but then that's it. And trust me, there's been worse smells on the subway than anything that I bring into it.
When I hear forensics, and I think a lot of people hear forensics, they're thinking Law & Order and CSI. Is that what this is really about?
So forensic entomology is primarily used in homicide investigations, but that's not the only use for it. Insects can be very helpful when you're looking at the agricultural industry. There's a lot of insects that can infest those grains. So the source of that contamination and finding where that contamination occurred. And then with respect to urban entomology, a lot of times you're dealing with pest species. So you can deal with termites and their feeding activity that can potentially disrupt the structure of a house or of a building. All of that would fall underneath forensic entomology as well.
But the bread and butter is indeed homicide investigation. It may seem a little morbid, but you can figure out when a body died based on understanding the life cycle of the insects that have grown on it, specifically the life cycle of the blowfly.
Well, believe it or not, you encounter blowflies all the time. When you're walking your dog in the summer and it decides to take a you-know-what, chances are if you stay around in that area for a few minutes, you're gonna see blowflies. And they lay eggs on a dead, decomposing resource. They can lay eggs within minutes of death. And so by looking back at their developmental cycles and the temperature at which the crime occurred, you can work back to try and figure out when those eggs were laid. And in ideal situations, and in most situations, that time that that egg was laid corresponds very tightly to the time of death. A lot of times we take a live sample and we bring it back to the lab and re-rear it. And what that means is that we want it to continue its development so that we have an adult emerge out so we can determine what species we're dealing with.
Unlike the investigations on TV, according to Rosati, it can take weeks or even months to identify an insect, rearing the eggs in the lab until they hatch and grow. And one thing they don't show you on TV is that in order to understand the bugs at a crime scene, it means always keeping a lot of bugs on hand to study in the lab. Like a lot of bugs.
So a typical day in the lab is actually doing research. For me, it's either teaching or it's supervising students, checking in on their research, rearing flies, meaning we've got colonies that need to be taken care of, so we need to make sure the adults are fed, the larvae are fed, they're happy. I always tell my students a happy maggot means that you've got a happy supervisor.
To be sure, day to day it is indeed more research than it is law and order. Rosati assists on about 2 to 3 cases per year at this point in her career, so it's not all morbid. And Rosati keeps it all in perspective.
The person at home that's watching and thinking, oh my God, I'd never be able to do this, and I would say this job isn't for everybody. But to me, insects are beautiful. You put them underneath a microscope, you see the shine to them, especially the blowflies, and also there's an important aspect to it. Somebody's got to do it, right? Somebody's got to play with maggots, somebody's got to play with dead bodies and pick the bugs off the dead bodies, and that just so happens to be me. So it isn't for everybody, but I enjoy it.
The 3D lab at Queensborough Community College gives students at technology fields the tools and the encouragement to not only create things that benefit society, but also further their careers. Abby Ashola has that story.
It's Tuesday, and today I went out with CAL FIRE. I'm going to start documenting the fires that took out a lot of these homes.
To say Mateo Science is a student on a mission would be putting things lightly. The biotechnology major recently won a $50,000 grant from the National Science Foundation to support the idea he has for a 3D printed drone.
We have our finished product of the drone. It is very lightweight. So I wanted to build a drone and help first responders save more lives more quickly. I traveled to Los Angeles to cover the forest fires in November. There's no connectivity, so people here live off of the internet, which is down for now. And I traveled to Puerto Rico to talk to hurricane victims.
¿Estás listo? ¿Estás listo para ver eso? Bam!
Oh. And I even traveled to South America, to my country, where I spoke to people that were impacted by the 2016 earthquake that hit the coast.
It all started when he walked into the 3D printing lab at Queensborough Community College, where he printed his drone.
And it looks just like the other drone, the original.
Here, students in various technology fields get unique hands-on training to see the ideas they have come to form.
My name is Song Hwan An, majoring in IIT.
An has printed several fully functioning capacitors, which some refer to as high-charging batteries.
Academically, the 3D printer actually helped me to understand about the whole concept of how materials are used, not just how it was made, but how it was prepared. I wasn't sure about the preferences where the
Knowledge and the encouragement to excel are offered here under the tutelage of Professor Michael Lawrence, who heads the lab.
So what is a 3D printer? what a 3D printer is, I'd ask you the question, what's a bumblebee? You think about a bumblebee and the honeycomb that it's going to make. You have a swarm of bees, each depositing wax in a precise place according to a plan, someplace, independently. And at the end of the day, you have this 3D, three-dimensional product called the honeycomb. That's exactly how this statue was built. Except instead of a swarm of bumblebees, we just had one little bumblebee depositing material in the exact right place, so that at the end of the day, we had this.
Or this, a three-dimensional model of a lung. And this, a replica of a brain with a cancerous tumor. Both were made for doctors to observe before surgery.
So what's been the most unusual thing printed in this lab?
A space habitat that's in the asteroid belt. That's complete with rivers and forests. It was featured in the Wall Street Journal.
Lauren says the lab is able to take on such sophisticated work because it's been outfitted with sophisticated equipment. This thanks to a $1.5 million grant the school received from Governor Cuomo's office, along with another $500,000 of support given by the college itself.
Queensborough is one of very few educational institutions in the world to have the Stratasys J750. It's so expensive and so sought after, it's now being used as a recruiting tool here.
And so far, the expense has paid off for students like Shuhua Song, who felt the prejudices of being a woman in technology in her home country. Even after earning a bachelor's degree in software engineering from her former school in China, she didn't think she could actually become an engineer and excel.
After I came here, my mind was totally changed. This kind of education gave me some more encouragement. I never saw this kind of lab in my university in China.
Abby Ashola for Urban U.
Camryn Bruno is a poet and a student at York College. Raised in Tobago and now back in New York City, she's just been named New York City Youth Poet Laureate.
My name is Camryn Bruno. I'm 19 years old. I go to York College. I'm a spoken word poet. The transition from moving from New York to Tobago was hard for me because I was young and I was just getting acclimatized to what New York had to offer for me. And English literature was one of those subjects that was mandatory. You had to pass it, you had to do it. So I was forced into being creative, writing letters and writing stories and writing poems. My first school slam was in 2015. And I thought that my poem was on fire, and I thought it would have won, and then I didn't place.
And it starts all over again.
And then I went back to the school slam in 2016, and then I placed second. I got straight into the semifinals, and then I made it into the finals. And then I became the winner of the champion of the First Citizens National Poetry Slam. And I was only 17, I was the youngest poet to ever win that slam as of today. To be twins, to know this body free, to know this body belongs to nobody, so we will have a funerary baptism, an open casket for the fishes, our body as a bloody host for a shark's communion, encapsulating the dense bones inside Davy Jones's locker. I was the middle passage between dirt and a foreign land, between land and a foreign land. The water between continents became a second home to me. I am the immigrant. Why did I move to New York? I thought about the opportunities that need to come. I thought about the accomplishments or the criteria that I would need to have a better life for myself. And CUNY was the place for me to have that experience. I have access to almost all the schools, which makes it easier for all of these youths to come together and be a CUNY collective in literary arts and visual arts, and all of these arts coming together. So the New York City Youth Poet Laureate is the person who would be the ambassador for poetry and civic engagement in New York City. They would have different speaking opportunities and performing opportunities in a political scene and a social scene. And I was hesitant to apply because I didn't want another failure. But then I applied, then I was a finalist. So I was like, okay, let's start over. And then I started over and went to the closed workshop that we had. And they decided from there who the NYC Youth Poet Laureate would be.
And you didn't protect yourself. Don't tell me that I didn't warn you about the plague, about political parasitism in this society. Don't tell me. You didn't know that you're an host organism, that they depend on you. Touché.
CUNY is important to me because in the last year, they showed me how important my voice is, indirectly and directly. And so I think that's like a very big achievement for CUNY as well, to have youth that represents the entire New York City when CUNY is like the City University of New York. That's kind of cool. So never be afraid to stand your ground. Use the indentations already. One of the main goals for me is to give back to Tobago, paying homage to what they have done for me and making sure that the trip or the road for anybody else who wants to follow in my footsteps, they have an easier process than what I had. So strive to see the person you see in the mirror and look at your body and see how powerful it is. And just like our body, know that when many things come together in harmony, there's bound to be success, physical and mental integrity, life and safety, from the sole of your foot to the crown of your head. Know that your body has known to move and fight a long time ago.
Every moment of every day, we are inundated with advertising. So how does an advertiser cut through the clutter? Well, Barry Mitchell's about to introduce us to a City Tech senior who's keeping it surreal.
I feel like today people are so desensitized to advertising, and they almost reject it when they see anything that looks like an ad. People gravitate most towards brands that have like an attitude or like an edge.
Call them millennials, call them Generation Y. When you want to market to 20-somethings, call this guy.
I'm Sean McSherry. I study communication design here at City Tech. I have a concentration in advertising, and I'm due to graduate this year.
Sean credits two people with setting him on his career path, his mom and Don Draper.
I first discovered I did advertising at a booth at a church flea market for my mother by screaming at people to come to my mom's table and then making signs for her. And then later on in high school, I discovered it after watching a pretty famous show called Mad Men.
Everybody else's tobacco is poisonous. Lucky Strikes is toasted.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons from that show, mainly how creativity could play a role in society besides just being about art, and then not so valuable lessons about how ancient advertising kind of used to be.
Oh no.
What's wrong?
Oh, it's your coffee again.
I'm Robin Michaels. I teach advanced studio photography here at City Tech. I was lucky to have Sean in my class last spring when he did this really terrific fun project for Orida.
A fun project that won him a prize in the CUNY-wide Student Photo Challenge.
A photo series based around replacing everyday objects with French fries. The photo replaces a phone cord with curly fries. And I got this idea after sitting in the lunchroom before going to photography class while I was eating fries and kind of like looking around, being hungry and like, if I was hungry, that phone cord could look like French fries. And just on a whim was like, it would be cool to do a photo series combining food photography and surrealism.
This photo looks so easy and so natural, but it was really hard to work with curly fries.
The goal of this was to make visually appealing photos that people would want to talk about and make frozen French fries sexy, which is a hard thing to do. People in my age group are on a really huge health kick. We don't consider frozen food healthy. It's about being more funny and witty about it, and I think that's what these photos accomplish.
Sean himself is a walking advertisement.
While studying, I also work as a brand ambassador for Thursday Boots. I go around college campuses talking to people about the boots and also promoting the boots on social media to get more people involved and aware of the brand.
And with camera and Bachelor of Technology degree in hand, Sean surveys his future.
To the shock of probably no one, I hope to work at an advertising agency after graduating.
Sean McSherry, from madman to gradman. Barry Mitchell, Urban U.
Well, that is our show for this month. We're going to leave you now with some highlights from the CUNY Athletic Conference Cheerleading Championships.
For more information on any of our stories, log on to our website at tv.cuny.edu or check out our Urban Youth Facebook page. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye now.